Hey guys, AB here from B&H, and welcome to the 6th video in our Audio for Video series designed to help you get great sounding audio for your video productions. Today, we're introducing you to post-production, the stage that occurs after you've finished shooting, where you'll organize and process all of your project's media inside your video editing software. Now, as this is simply an introduction to post, we're going to give you a general overview of the different phases you'll go through once you're done shooting and ready to put your project together. Subsequent videos will do a deeper dive into some of the topics briefly covered today. So, you ready? Let's go! Alright, you've shot your video and you're ready to turn it into a masterpiece. Cool, but not so fast. There are lots of things that need to happen between starting your edit and having a finished product you're proud of. And this is where having a methodical approach to post-production is really going to help you. While everyone's workflow isn't exactly the same, the following sequence is a good general order of steps you should take to properly handle your audio in post. They are file management, synchronizing or syncing your audio, dialogue editing and ADR, sound design, effects and Foley, background music, and the final edited mix. File management. First things first, before even dealing with any media you've recorded, you need to create a new project in your editor and name it properly. I know this seems obvious, but not using proper naming conventions can make locating projects and files a difficult task in the future. So when you create a new project, give it a name that is specific or pertinent to the shoot. For example, if I did a shoot on basic tips for audio for video, I may call the project Basic Tips for Audio for Video, or something similar. Names can always be tweaked and changed as you go along, but you should start out with something that makes sense. Once you've named your project, you'll import the media you've recorded, and at this point, it's equally important to create a system that organizes all of this media in a logical, easy-to-find manner. Remember, you may be dealing with a lot of different assets, and I'm talking video, photos, graphics, and of course, audio. There may be more. Therefore, you should create a system of separate folders for audio, for footage, images, and so on. And each of them should be labeled with a different color to make identifying them really easy. There's a quick thing I should mention. Different cameras handle media in different ways. So let's say you shoot one continuous take. Some cameras are going to generate one continuous audio file until you actually stop recording, while other models may automatically break up audio into distinct chunks, even if they are part of the same take. You really need to be aware of how your camera operates so you can properly organize your audio into their appropriate folders. Synchronizing sound. Once you've imported and organized your media into respective folders, the next step will be to sync your audio to your video. Obviously, for simple shoots involving one camera and one source of audio recorded directly to the camera, this really isn't an issue, as the audio and video will be in sync from the get-go. Simply import that media into the editor and it should line up perfectly. However, for shoots that involve multiple cameras and sources of audio, or even audio recorded to a separate dedicated recorder, you are going to need to sync all that audio. Most good video editing software will give you options for syncing your audio. We use Adobe Premiere, which allows us to sync either clip by clip or in entire batches. There's also third-party software like Pluralize that can help you organize and sync your media outside of your editor. Once you've gotten everything in sync, you'd simply create an XML file, which can then be imported into your editing software of choice. If you're new and unfamiliar with XML, it's basically a tool for storing and transferring data. Since it isn't software dependent, you can pretty much import it into your software of choice without issue. This is a good way to transfer files between people who are using different software to edit the same project. Just remember, you should really be planning on how you're going to sync your audio before you even start shooting, which is something we've definitely mentioned in a few of the last videos in this series. Utilizing slate tone, manually clapping, or even engaging timecode are all methods that will make lining up your audio a much easier process in post. Also, if the camera that you're shooting with does not have a built-in mic, but it allows for an external mic to be plugged in, you should definitely do so. It's really easy to line up your good audio when you have a scratch track from the camera to use as a reference. Dialogue editing and ADR. Let's move on to dialogue editing, which can involve a number of processes. So if you film something and you have shot multiple takes, you should go through your footage and choose the best take. This is going to save you a lot of time in the editing stage. Once you've selected all the audio you're going to use in the edit, you'll need to clean up some of those noises that are often associated with dialogue. For example, lip smacks, loud breaths, clearing of the throat, and a variety of other sounds. In your editor, you'll probably need to cut out some sounds, employ crossfades to seamlessly join audio clips, close gaps between clips, and more. For particularly troublesome sounds, such as background sounds, machine noises like air conditioners, traffic, and more, you will most likely need to use noise reduction software like iZotope's RX-7 Advanced. Dialogue editing may also involve ADR, which stands for Automatic Dialogue Replacement. Typically, this is the process of using the original talent to re-record dialogue that is problematic. Maybe there was a noise in the background that interferes with the dialogue, or perhaps the quality of the audio just wasn't up to par. Whatever the reason, the ADR process usually involves the talent sitting in front of a monitor, re-recording audio while watching his or her mouth movements from the pre-recorded video. And of course, when re-recording audio, it's always a good idea to recreate the original recording setup, so shooting in the same room and utilizing the same microphone. By the way, ADR is also often used as a creative effect. For example, overdubbing a completely random person's voice.
I just bought a coat. I just bought a goat. We just went to Winslow. We jumped out a window.
I just bought a coat. I just bought a goat. We just went to Winslow. We jumped out a window.
Next, we have sound design, effects, and Foley. Generally speaking, these are the processes of creating custom sounds to enhance the visual experience of a project. Sound design and effects are often handled by a dedicated sound mixer in post, and it tends to involve recording specific audio, especially audio from the environment in which the shoot took place, or manipulating previously recorded audio, such as music, a location, or even sound effects. There are also thousands of sound libraries out there, so finding the perfect effect for your scene is pretty easy these days. Foley, on the other hand, is typically the reproduction of everyday sounds to make scenes more realistic. Think footsteps, the rustling of clothes, or even the breaking of an arm in a fight scene. An engaging film or video often includes background music, and it's important to choose the correct style that supports the scene that's being shown. You can either compose the music yourself, find royalty-free music, or use one of the many music subscription services that let you download from hundreds of genres and styles. You should check out our video on how music affects the mood in film. This will give you a great set of examples as to why it's important to be careful with your music choices. Final mix. Now we come to the final part of mixing the audio in your project. Once you've added all the media to your timeline and you're happy with those choices, you need to mix and balance the audio in a way that complements the video. Let's start with dialogue, as this may require several processes to get it right. First off, you want to make sure that you have consistent levels from start to end. Nothing should be either inaudible or way too loud. You can do this a number of ways. You can adjust the gain of the individual clips, or even the entire audio track, by using the normalize function in your editor. Normalizing brings all of your audio to a target level without affecting the dynamics, so it's not going to squash your sound the way that a compressor or limiter may do. There are different methods on how to normalize properly, but we're going to get into those techniques in later videos. Compression is also commonly used to maintain consistent audio levels, but you really need to be gentle with your compression levels to prevent the sound from being squashed. So simply start with a 2-to-1 ratio, a fast attack, and a threshold in the realm of -10 to -20 dB. Again, there's no one-size-fits-all setting here, but that should be a safe starting point from which you can tweak further. By the way, if you don't want to use any processors, you can also automate your audio levels by drawing in volume rides across the timeline. This is a good way to keep the dialogue sounding natural without having to use heavy processing. Using EQ may also be necessary to remove problematic frequencies or to enhance parts of the audio you want to hear. In general, it's best to remove unwanted stuff with a very narrow band and slightly boost what you want to hear with a broader band. Check out our video using parametric EQ to shape your sound for examples. If your audio has noise issues, you'll have to use either the software's built-in noise reduction tools or a third-party option like iZotope's RX-7 Advanced, which we use quite a bit here when we need to get rid of unwanted sounds. When it comes to maintaining smooth transitions between audio clips, you'll need to apply crossfades. Make sure the fades aren't too big, or they're going to start cutting off pieces of audio that you actually want to keep intact. As for sound design, Foley, and backing music, mixing these will mostly involve a combination of levels and panning. It's very important to keep these tracks from overpowering dialogue, so don't worry if they're quiet in some sections, louder in others, or if you totally mute them from time to time. You have to do what's necessary to maintain the integrity of the dialogue. And last but not least, you need to be aware of your overall output levels when it's time to export your project. Depending on the platform you're releasing it on, there are going to be different guidelines for loudness. For example, Web-based projects tend to be closer to 0 dB in level, whereas streaming platforms may require you to keep your levels around -10 dB. Once you determine the appropriate level for your platform, you may want to engage a limiter on your master audio channel, which will prevent audio peaks from exceeding that specified level. Well, that's it for our video on Introduction to Post. Stay tuned for the next video, which will cover some of these topics more in depth. This is AB from B&H. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.